A child sexual abuse cover-up. Australia's most famous Catholic savaged by the Royal Commission, finding he was well aware of the dark secrets of some of our worst paedophile priests. He has now issued a denial. Not guilty, a garbage truck driver cleared after reversing into a legally blind DY grandmother who died saving her grandson. Not so happy Mother's Day. No coronavirus restrictions lifted before Sunday. No matter what the National Cabinet says, the Premier is standing firm. His side of the story, John Barilaro, takes us inside 24 hours of mayhem within the government as police find he did not break the lockdown rules at his farm. Later, the little royal reader, young Archie Windsor, beaming as he enjoys story time to celebrate his first birthday. And in sport, lots of fighting, but very few jabs. The flu vaccine clash threatening some NRL stars.
This is 10 News First Sydney with Sandra Sully.
Good evening. Just weeks after being cleared of being a paedophile himself, Cardinal George Pell has been named as part of the cover-up of church sex crimes dating back nearly 50 years. Previously secret, sections of a Royal Commission report have today been released. In breaking news, the Cardinal has now released a statement saying that he was surprised by some of the views about his actions and that these views are not supported by evidence. He is especially surprised by the statements with reference to notorious paedophile Gerald Risdale.
George Pell has long claimed he was not part of the Catholic Church's scandalous history of sex crimes and cover-up. He was part of the solution as author of the so-called Melbourne Response.
I don't think the Church has ever got enough credit for the fact that we broke the back of this problem. The offending stopped.
But today's release of previously secret sections of a Royal Commission report lays out specific cases where it found Pell knew for decades about the crimes of paedophile priests. The Commission finds it implausible Pell didn't know why notorious child rapist Gerald Risdale was being moved from parish to parish around Ballarat in the 1970s. As Auxiliary Bishop of Melbourne in the 80s, Pell took no action against Father Peter Searson, despite credible evidence of violence and sexual crimes. Cardinal Pell's evidence that he was deceived about Searson's behaviour was also implausible, says the Royal Commission. Thus protected, says the Commission, Searson was empowered to continue his abuse.
It's not for me to sit in judgment of anybody, but they're just facts. They are facts. And the sooner the people of faith face up to that, the better.
The Commission makes plain Pell was just part of a deep culture of criminal cover-up going right to the top of the Church at the time. The late Archbishop Sir Frank Little abjectly failed to protect the safety and well-being of children, says the Commission, repeatedly ignoring or overruling credible evidence of sexual and other crimes, in what the Commission says were repeated and devastating failures.
There's no way knowing that a guy in that situation, especially a smart man and an intelligent man like Cardinal Pell, didn't know something was going on.
It's a terrible report for the priesthood. It reveals a behaviour that's unchristian, unethical.
We've got a long way to go to make good the terrible things that were done in the name of the Catholic Church and with sometimes the protection of the Catholic Church.
Cardinal Pell has been living since his High Court acquittal and release from jail at a seminary in Homebush. Today, fresh ribbons were hung there honouring the victims of the Church's failures. Senior Catholic sources have told me George Pell remains in Sydney, but his exact location is being kept secret, presumably for security reasons. He has spent the day reading the details from the Royal Commission. His legacy, as it stands tonight in law, not a pedophile, but a man who joined in covering up those most appalling crimes. Hugh Rimmington for 10 News First.
The truck driver charged over a fatal crash that killed a Northern Beaches grandmother has been cleared of dangerous driving. The judge found that the man took all the reasonable steps to reverse safely, even though he ended up killing the legally blind woman as she pushed her grandson in a pram.
Just hours after the fatal crash, a sobbing Terramona Taki tells police,
"Didn't even see her. Wasn't even there."
The garbage truck driver had been on his last job of the day, reversing up a narrow DY street when he hit and killed 58-year-old Hayne Matheson.
But in the right mirror, I've hit the brakes and I've seen a pram.
In her final moments, she'd pushed the toddler out of the truck's way.
I just lost it. I could have lost it. I just bawled my eyes out. I couldn't do nothing about it.
The court heard, though, that there was nothing more the truckie could have done. He'd checked his mirrors and camera, beeped his horn and engaged his reverse alarm. And still neither he nor his two colleagues saw the grandmother until it was too late.
Yeah, exactly what's happened.
Someone's been on over by truck.
Any obvious injuries?
Yeah, very, very bad.
Despite the tragedy, it was found that he'd taken all reasonable steps to reverse safely and was therefore not guilty of driving dangerously. Informing his decision, Judge John North found that Techie's loaders were impressive eyewitnesses that gave clear, concise evidence despite being obviously still traumatised. He eventually found that there were 3 sets of eyes on the intended route that day. Mr. Techie, how are you feeling right now? Is it a relief? He's not a free man yet, though. He remains on bail for the less serious charge of negligent driving, and an appeal of this decision is likely. For now, his lawyers tell us his thoughts are with the Mathesons. Mr. Techie would like to express that he is very sorry for the Matheson family's loss and that he hopes that her grandson grows up to be big and strong. The horror accident and the toll it's taken on everyone involved should serve as a lesson. Kimberly Pratt for 10 News First.
There will be no more restrictions lifted by Mother's Day in our state, no matter what the Prime Minister or anyone else says. That's the message from the Premier tonight after another day of flattening the curve. We have set a record for the highest number of tests in 24 hours in New South Wales, with those 10,000 swabs revealing just 3 new cases. So that brings our total to 3,044, with nearly 2,500 of those now recovered. Despite that success, the Premier is not for turning.
It seems one of the most popular places to be right now is a COVID-19 clinic. Yesterday we hit a record testing rate, over 10,000 in a day, and still case numbers are low.
Australians will now be at the forefront of beginning to regain their lives as the world looks on.
But don't get too excited. Our Premier is warning, even if tomorrow's National Cabinet gives the go-ahead for gatherings of up to 10 people, we will hold off.
I doubt very much that New South Wales will be in a position to implement anything before Mother's Day, and I just wanted to make that clear.
Under the social distancing rules, it will look a little different this year. A limit of only 2 adults as well as children will be allowed to visit Mum at a time, although she can accept multiple visits a day.
Well, we won't be able to get together.
How disappointing is that?
Very disappointing.
The Premier says Monday's staggered return to classes and the chance of a full resumption of schools by the end of May is enough for now.
And we need to see what the cumulative effect of that is. So we don't want to have a spike in cases that exceeds what we can manage.
I'm upset about it, but if that's what she thinks is best for the state, then we have to listen to her.
I think it's better that we just stick to what's good for our state.
And if you were planning to send Mum a gift by the mail and you haven't done it by now, Australia Post says you might have missed out. With a record number of parcels being sent during the COVID-19 crisis, even with Express Post, it had to be sent by yesterday to reach her in time. At least, though, 3 more beaches, including Double Bay, have now reopened, but only to swim and go. So, with a Mother's Day picnic also off this year, we all might need to get a little creative on what to give her. Ursula Hager for 10 News First.
But even with restrictions remaining in place, we are starting to see more shops reopen their doors. Sydney P joins us with the latest on this. Sydney, which retailers are starting to get back to business?
Well, Sandra, shoppers will be very pleased that some stores are reopening and for longer. Big W is one of them. They have been open throughout the lockdown period but at reduced hours. But today they're bringing back late night shopping and will be open on Thursdays until 9 p.m. once again. Now, it's a sign big retailers are beginning to reawaken as these COVID-19 restrictions begin to ease. Another brand doing the same is Apple. It's opened 21 of its stores across the country. Australia is one of just 4 countries across the world where the tech giant has chosen to do that. But of course, there will be some strict social distancing measures in place. Customers who want to go into an Apple store will be subjected to a temperature check, and they'll also be given a face mask. But plenty of shops are reopening and some are definitely planning to. Myer has said it is planning to reopen in Bankstown and in Liverpool on Saturday. So while we may not be able to have a large gathering with mum this Sunday for Mother's Day, there's certainly still time, and now no excuse not to duck out and grab her something special.
All right, Sydney, thank you. Anglicare, the operator of the troubled Newmarch House aged care facility, has bowed to pressure from the industry watchdog to try and control the deadly outbreak that's raging within its walls. It has pledged to appoint an independent advisor, with the deadline expiring just a few minutes ago, and yet still no word on who it will be.
For weeks, loved ones of those trapped inside these gates have been begging for someone to do something. Now the Federal Aged Care Commission has stepped in to clean up the mess at Newmarch House.
I'm relieved if the regulators come in and has now put them on notice about revoking their licence. That's a good thing.
Today, Anglicare agreed to pay for and listen to an independent advisor for 3 months. It will also not admit any new residents and will make regular reports. But the bad news keeps coming for the centre. Out of the 3 new cases discovered in New South Wales, 2 are staff members, bringing the total number to 68, 31 workers and 37 residents. The newly diagnosed had only worked 1 shift after being isolated for 2 weeks. This morning, Newmarch House was the top topic at the inquiry into the state government's response to the pandemic, where petty squabbling drowned out important discussions.
What was that wink for, Mr. Searle? What was that wink about? No. Yes, you just winked. It was well and truly on TV that you winked.
16 people have now lost their lives inside these walls, and many more are still fighting for them. Today, the Health Minister, Brad Hazzard, was asked why the state government hadn't used its emergency powers under the Public Health Act to force the mandatory testing of staff inside this facility earlier. He said he's always relied on the advice of our Chief Health Officer and frontline medical workers. It comes as new research finds that more than 2/3 of Australians support limiting visitors to aged care homes.
I think we all want the same thing, and this is what we're trying to do now, is to work through how do we make sure that we allow as much contact and connection as possible while making sure that we keep COVID out of residential care facilities.
By next week, National Cabinet will finalise an Australian-wide protocol. But no matter what that is, no one will be visiting this building in Caddons for a long time, making cardboard cuddles like this from a childcare centre down the road all the more important.
Hopefully that brings comfort and hope. That's pretty much what we can do at the moment.
Charlotte Goodlett for 10 News First.
The New South Wales Police Commissioner has ruled that the Deputy Premier did not breach corona travel restrictions by spending last weekend at his family farm. A relieved John Barilaro sat down for an exclusive interview with 10 News First, where he opened up about his friendship with Andrew Constance and his disappointment with federal Nationals leader Michael McCormack.
It was a seemingly innocent admission.
I had the opportunity on the weekend down at the farm to build a cubby house with my little 4.5-year-old.
But after pleading with others not to travel and criticising former Minister Don Harwin for going to his holiday home, police said this morning they'd look into whether John Barilaro broke the rules by going to his Nerriga property.
After today, we'll speak to a number of people about it.
By this afternoon, they'd cleared him.
I knew that I was within the rules to do what I had done today over the weekend. I wouldn't have said it otherwise, but yeah, I'm relieved.
The guidelines have always allowed for visits to farms, and his was damaged in the fires.
Well, my wife and I maintain that property. We don't have now staff looking after the property.
The fact his visit made headlines didn't come as a complete surprise.
There's no doubt that for me it feels like it's just a bit of a smear campaign.
That's something the Transport Minister Andrew Constance yesterday accused him of after Barilaro allegedly called him a four-letter word.
Yep, there was a story yesterday that puts a wedge between Andrew and I. I'm not going to confirm, deny, I'm not going to make comment on that conversation, but Andrew and I have spoken since. It's always going to be difficult now because of what has been said.
The word he used was white hand. Were you white handing him?
No, absolutely not. I mean, again, there was accusations even over the weekend that Andrew had been white handing me, I even heard a couple of Liberal MPs talk about it, but I picked up the phone and asked him, what I had been hearing. He denied it. I believed him.
He's adamant they can still work together and will grab a beer when the pubs reopen, something he won't be doing with his federal leader Michael McCormack after slamming him over text message.
I made it clear. People know that I didn't feel I was supported by Michael to actually throw my hat in the ring. And, when you get a star candidate, and I'm not saying that I'm special or anything, but have a look at what Albo did. He found the Mayor of Bega, he got on the phone, encouraged her, convinced her, embraced her and announced her, and then actually truncated the pre-selection. Our leaders of our party should do the same. They should never feel threatened. But look, it is the decision. Michael's Michael. I've decided, state's for me, and I'm enjoying being the Deputy Premier, and I've got a lot to do this term.
But he won't stand again in 2023 and will relinquish the Nationals' leadership before then. Lachlan Kennedy for 10 News First.
Stay with us after the break. When will the virus restrictions ease? Not even those in charge can agree. Upside down and in a bush, the fast food run that turned into a pea plate, a police chase. The northwest Sydney man who tried to top a graffiti attack and ended up with stab wounds. The life-threatening coronavirus mystery that's striking down only the young. And it's story time for Archie as he celebrates his first birthday.
JB stores are open for business with the hottest deals to keep you connected, like the Samsung Galaxy A51 phone for $529 and this Oppo Reno 2Z phone for $549. Buy in-store, online, click and collect or get it delivered. JB, you've done it again.
Missing Mel, Lloyd and Celia? Well, they're back with Ed and Sam on the new season of Have You Been Paying Attention? Monday.
A P-plate driver who allegedly failed to stop for police and crashed his car with 4 teenage passengers on board says that he drove off because he was afraid of big fines for breaking social distancing laws. The young driver returned to the Minto scene today, apologising for his actions that could have proved deadly.
It's the end of the road in the most dramatic way. A police pursuit in Sydney's southwest narrowly avoids tragedy.
And more police cars and ambulances and fire engines and the helicopter.
Security vision captures the final moments, but police will allege it began when they spotted a P-plater speeding.
The car continued at the end of the bushland, continued in there, and whilst it was going through there, the car actually flipped over onto the roof.
The 21-year-old driver is Aaron Cooper. He's arrested at the scene, but only after being freed from the wreckage.
I was stuck in the seatbelt, so I had to get him to get a utility knife. I had no way of getting out. I kept trying, but I couldn't free myself.
His 4 teenage passengers managed to get out. They tried to hide in the scrub. 16-year-old Leah Burge was one of them.
Aaron got stuck in the car. We got caught somewhere down in the bush.
How did you get out?
My friend kicked the door open.
Aaron says he regrets the frightening ride and has offered this as his reason for failing to stop for police.
Due to social distancing laws, I didn't want to cop a breach for non-essential travel. According to the police report, it was because I was going like 80 and a 60. I'm not actually sure why they tried to pull me over. I thought it was just a random pullover, so yeah. I didn't know that I was actually speeding at the time.
Locals tell us this is a very dangerous, long stretch of road. It's not the first time that a car has failed to stop, not realising that it's a dead end. This time, these 5 young people were lucky to make it out alive.
You can see the bush here, like it's just straight down into that ditch. To land on your roof and manage to get out is nothing short of miraculous.
And for those in the car...
Will you be out in the car joyriding again?
Definitely not.
It is stupid, but in hindsight, yeah, It's 2020.
Aaron is facing a number of charges and an expensive salvage job with some hard lessons learnt. Steve Hart for 10 News First.
Investigations are underway tonight into a mine explosion in central Queensland that left 4 men fighting for life, while a 5th has suffered serious injuries. The blast erupted at Anglo American's Grosvenor mine in Moranbah around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. With hundreds of workers underground at the time, union officials say it was just pure luck. There wasn't a catastrophic loss of life. Chris Campier is at the mine. He joins us now. Chris, this is an underground miner's worst fear.
It certainly is, Sandra. That was expressed to us by many that we spoke to today. That and collapse are among the nightmare stuff that those who don the safety gear and do head below ground are concerned about, especially here in Queensland's Bowen Basin, which is quite an active gas region. When that explosion happened yesterday, as you said, there were more than 100 people underground, all the ingredients for a large-scale disaster. Of course, 5 men were dragged from the scene of that explosion. Their injuries were to the torso and to their respiratory systems. Those men were transported to Brisbane for further treatment. Tonight, one of those has improved to stable, while 4 remain in a critical condition. And of course, investigations commenced to try and determine just what went so horribly wrong.
And there's been issues with gas at this mine, with gas trips, with gas leakage, for a better word, and I guess again that'll be a part of the investigation.
People of Queensland, people of Moranbah, we want answers to why this event occurred. We demand answers.
Now, Queensland's Mines Minister, he even hinted at a board of inquiry into mine safety. We haven't seen one of those in the last 2 decades, so certainly being taken very, very seriously at that level. Of course, any investigation does take time, especially one as complicated as this, and while those investigations do get underway, this mine will remain closed, deemed unsafe for anyone to return inside.
Chris Campier, thank you. A teenager has faced court charged with stabbing a man in Sydney's northwest. Police say the 57-year-old was attacked last night when he confronted 2 teenagers graffitiing in North Ryde. A 19-year-old and 16-year-old were arrested at the scene. The older boy taken to hospital with minor injuries. He was later charged with reckless wounding and drug possession. The younger teen was released while the victim is in a stable condition in hospital. Sydney's oldest theatre is set for a London West End makeover. The 55-year lease by a UK management group secures the future of the Theatre Royal, which was closed 4 years ago. Works on the CBD site, where the theatre has stood since 1875, are already underway, but extensive refurbishment will begin in December.
This will mean more stage shows coming to Sydney, more opportunities for jobs to be created, and a serious shot in the arm of the creative industries in this wonderful, wonderful city.
A spokesperson said it is too early to tell what will be on the program next year. Well, hovering above with the latest on Sydney traffic tonight is Marina Ivanovic. Marina, there's been a truck breakdown tonight and it's a bit slow as a result.
Yes, Sandra, it's through Prospect for the Prospect Highway heading northbound, approaching Reservoir Road, heading up towards the M4. We're seeing very heavy delays at the moment, as you can see, northbound. It's sitting in the right-hand lane. Some truck techs have just arrived on the scene. They're still waiting on a tow truck, but the traffic's quite slow southbound as well, so avoid it if you can. I'm Marina Ivanovic in the ABC Reading Eggs Traffic Chopper.
Let's get the latest on our weather now, so we'll find Tim Bailey. Tim, I love it when you save the best for last.
Certainly done that, Souls. Yeah, don't you love it when I inject a bit of summer into a May Friday? And that's on the way, folks. Trust me, I'm a weatherman. The weather wall tonight, the figures were pretty good on a Thursday. Let's get to it for you right now. That was why. Look at that brilliant start to the day. Mrs. Spo from DY. Glorious Sydney was, and you ain't seen nothing yet. Temp-wise, 24 degrees. We'll take that. That's about 5 degrees up on average. Currently 21 degrees, and we go to 20 27 or 28 tomorrow. Broken Hill 26 today. That was the state's high. Thredbo -1 was the low. Lismore did 25. Coffs Harbour 25 degrees and 21 at Bega. The super suburbs of Sydney are going to be sensational tomorrow, and they were in pretty good nick today. Penrith 24, Bankstown 24 degrees, Terry Hills 22 and Mascot 25 degrees. How about a couple of summer days in May? It'll be a pleasure, Miss Sully.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Stay with us after the break. Tens of thousands of dollars lost in a sophisticated superannuation scam targeting a tax office. The mystery illness striking down children in America's COVID epicentre. And Banksy the outlaw artist celebrates our real-life heroes.
As a parent, you ask, what's the best way to support my child? From first words to gaining confidence for new adventures, you're right there by their side. Wherever they are on their learning journey, ABC Reading Eggs is there to help you. Start your ABC Reading Eggs journey today.
Use BP points to spend in store.
BP Rewards.
Or get dollars off fuel.
BP Rewards. BP Rewards.
Or you can choose to earn Qantas points.
Now that's what I call BP Rewards.
Totally BP Rewards.
Start earning today. BP Rewards. Your way.
The MasterChef Sushi Train Challenge.
Biggest challenges that's ever been in the history of MasterChef.
7:30 tonight.
Hundreds of thousands of Australians took up the much publicised chance to access their superannuation early during this pandemic. Now around 150 of them are regretting it, having had their accounts raided and money stolen in a sophisticated fraud of the government's early access scheme.
As almost 1 million people try to access their superannuation early,
I can confirm that some limited fraudulent activity has been identified.
the Federal Police has been called in to investigate how the personal details of unsuspecting Aussies were used to scam the government scheme.
Up to 150 possible victims.
Together, they've lost $120,000. Police have executed 5 search warrants and frozen victims' bank accounts, but are yet to make any arrests.
It's quite sophisticated, and we have a number of our...
organised crime or offshore links?
That's all possibilities.
As far as we know, our systems have not been compromised.
The information was accessed from a third party, from a tax agent.
At least 3 ministers were notified.
It's safe to say that the minister's offices weren't happy.
The ministers have not asked for any remedial action or provided any direction around improvements or changes.
Not that I'm aware.
So, Senator, I mean, we are...
Seems very odd.
Autonomous. I mean, they have, of course, exhorted us to do our best.
It was only a few weeks ago the industry was raising concerns with the minister and commissioners about why its suggestions on how to best manage the risk of fraud weren't being adopted.
And it's quite clear that they haven't put in place appropriate safety mechanisms.
It's not unusual in our tax system to have self-assessment, is it?
No, that's a fundamental part.
But now...
Who will compensate the affected victims?
The obligation with regards to these and a fraud and that would sit with the superannuation fund. It wouldn't sit with the Australian Taxation Office.
More than one fund is caught up in the fraud. Tegan George for 10 News First.
Outrage is growing across the United States after a video surfaced showing an unarmed black man being shot dead by 2 white men in the southern state of Georgia. 25-year-old Ahmed Arbery can be seen jogging down the road before an altercation with a father and son in a pickup truck. The father shot him dead.
There were 3 shots, 3 shotgun blasts, which goes towards the mindset of the shooter, that his intent was to kill Ahmaud Arbery.
The video has emerged 2 months after the shooting. No one has been charged. 64 children in New York have now been taken to hospital with a mysterious illness which doctors say may be related to COVID-19. The symptoms, which include inflammation of the skin, eyes and blood vessels, have left some of the children in intensive care. Most of them have also tested positive for coronavirus.
They tend to all have very high fever and high heart rates, and oftentimes it's accompanied with low blood pressure.
At least 50 children have experienced the same symptoms in Europe. Australia has not yet reported any cases. In the United Kingdom, another 649 people have died from coronavirus in a day, taking its known toll to more than 30,000. But the news keeps getting better for Germany, which is moving to phase 2 in lifting its lockdown. Chancellor Angela Merkel has cleared the way for schools, daycare centres, stores and restaurants to reopen. She's also given Germany's soccer league, the Bundesliga, the green light. Germany did far more testing and contact tracing than any other major Western country at the very beginning of Europe's outbreak. Elusive British street artist Banksy has celebrated healthcare workers in his latest painting. The piece, called Game Changer, depicts a young boy playing with a superhero nurse toy while Batman and Spider-Man are relegated to the bin. It appeared in a corridor in England's south, accompanied with a thank you note. The artwork will sit on display at the hospital until the lockdown is lifted, when it will be auctioned for charity. Stay with us after the break. The restrictions are coming off. But what's first and when? Not even those in charge can agree. Plus, story time for the birthday boy. Archie turns 1.
Brands and homewares at the best possible prices. Shop with us to make your home your haven.
You know you'll make a great mum one day.
Wise men say.
You know, I had the weirdest cravings when I was pregnant with you. Pickles and ice cream.
Oh, if I can help falling in love with you.
Tonight's top stories. Cardinal George Pell says he's surprised at claims he helped cover up child sex crimes going back almost half a century. Damning and previously confidential parts of a Royal Commission report were made public today. New South Wales will not lift coronavirus restrictions no matter what. That's despite more than 10,000 tests and only 3 new cases. The Premier is refusing to move in time for Mother's Day. And the Police Commissioner has ruled that the Deputy Premier did not breach travel restrictions by spending last weekend at his family farm. John Barilaro has opened up exclusively to 10 News First about the rift with his colleague Andrew Constance. Well, the National Cabinet is expected to agree on a new timetable tomorrow on how quickly to lift the worst of these COVID restrictions. But that won't guarantee consistency. Even today, every state had a different plan.
Just when you thought it was safe to go outside.
Australians will now be at the forefront of beginning to regain their lives as the world looks on. And that's an extraordinary step.
Not all premiers are on board with the federal government's plans.
Without wanting to be the bearer of bad news.
Even with Mother's Day this weekend. Victoria has the toughest lockdowns in the country.
I will not be visiting my mum, even if it was lawful for me to do that.
Even if it was lawful? That's a bit mean. But it's not. Even just popping in to give mum some flowers. In New South Wales, 2 people can turn up with flowers and chockies, but if you are hoping to take mum out to lunch...
I doubt very much that New South Wales will be in a position to implement anything before Mother's Day.
Queensland is now allowing 5 home visitors at a time.
I think this is going to be welcomed by families, especially on Mother's Day.
The remaining states are expected to sign off on Scott Morrison's plan for home visits of up to 10 people when National Cabinet meets tomorrow.
10 News First understands that tomorrow's meeting is less about this weekend and more about lifting future restrictions around things like pubs and restaurants. But of course, as we know, it's really the premiers, not the Prime Minister, making these decisions.
Which begs the question, why can't a state like Western Australia, which hasn't had a new case in over a week, follow the lead of the Northern Territory and get the pubs and restaurants back open more quickly. Perhaps because South Australia was doing even better before a new coronavirus case late this afternoon. It's been a tough run of bad luck for Australians.
A triple whammy. Droughts, then 3 bushfires over 2 years, and then the coronavirus crisis.
As hopes fade of a speedy recovery. Peter Van Onselen for 10 News First.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have shared a rare video of baby Archie on his first birthday to raise money for a children's charity coronavirus appeal. It is only the third time we have seen a recording of the cute royal, who now lives in the US with his parents.
A precious everyday moment between mother and son.
Hey, look, a duck. That's not a duck, that's a rabbit. Yeah, here, can you turn the page?
Meghan Markle reading baby Archie a book on his first birthday. Apparently it's a favourite.
See? There's his bill. What are you talking about? Those are his ears, silly.
Watched on and filmed by doting dad Harry.
Wait, listen, did you hear that? I heard duck sounds.
The video shared by charity Save the Children, which is raising funds to help those living in hardship during the coronavirus pandemic. The campaign encourages people to read stories to their children and share them on social media. It's only the third time the public's been granted a video glimpse of Archie, who now lives with his mum and dad in Los Angeles after the Duke and Duchess of Sussex quit the royal family in March.
The end.
Yay! The end! Woo! In the UK, his grandmother, the Queen, is preparing to make a televised address to commemorate the 75th anniversary of VE Day. Her message, marking the end of World War II, will be broadcast on Saturday morning Australian time. It will be the Queen's second televised address during the coronavirus outbreak after she sent a message to the Commonwealth at Easter. Archie remains 7th in line to the throne.
Duck rabbit.
Gemma Chapman for 10 News First.
A final check to the skies now on the run home. Marina Ivanovic, you've got an update for us on that breakdown you mentioned earlier.
Yes, Sandra, through Prospect for the Prospect Highway northbound, there was a truck broken down, but they've managed to kick-start it again, and traffic's starting to move very smoothly heading northbound. We are still seeing delays for the Prospect Highway approaching the M4. They're all the way back through to Pemel Way. I'm Marina Ivanovic in the ABC Reading Eggs Traffic Chopper.
Matt Burke joins us now with a look at the day in sport. And Matt, to vax or not to vax, that is tonight's vexing question for the NRL.
I know where you're coming from, Sandra, and a short time ago the game's bosses gave a definitive answer. Those details next. While a mate goes into bat for a besieged NRL star, Latrell Mitchell. Plus, a shunt from Shane has proven costly in the virtual world of supercars.
As a parent, you ask, what's the best way to support my child? From first words to gaining confidence for new adventures, you're right there by their side. Wherever they are in their learning journey, ABC Reading Eggs is there to help you. Start your ABC Reading Eggs journey today.
Balance. Complete your sleep experience with beautiful Australian-made Manchester. Support local manufacturers and choose Australian-made. Everything you need for your home. Browse online and shop in-store. Now at Harvey Norman.
Go!
Hey mate, sign here.
Sign here. Fast track your shop with Repco Home Delivery.
The MasterChef Sushi Train Challenge.
Biggest challenges that's ever been in the history of MasterChef.
7:30 tonight.
Tonight's Sport Report is brought to you by Repco. Get your order delivered to your door. Shop now at repco.com.au.
Good evening. NRL players who decline to be vaccinated will be allowed to continue to play as long as they sign a revised waiver form. That waiver is to be expected to be approved by league bosses tomorrow, again putting the game at loggerheads with politicians and the country's top health officials.
They can take and dish out big hits, but a small jab from a needle threw into doubt some players' ability to play in the NRL. Canberra Raiders Josh Papali, Sia Soliola and Joe Tapane all refused to have the flu shot.
It's a tough one, man. I've grown up and just got the jabs as it is, like anyone does. But, obviously for whatever reason they don't, that I just believe that's their choice.
I'm sure once it all settles down, they'll give some clear reasons why. But at the moment, it's their decision, and individually we can only go forward and make our own calls on what we know.
From the Gold Coast, Bryce Cartwright tweeted, "Giving us the ultimatum to get the shot or be stood down is coercion," and went on to say, "I will not be bullied into making a decision that could impact my health and that of my family." We asked players from 8 clubs what their thoughts were until James Graham made a good point.
Ask a doctor, don't ask footballers. And put what the doctors say at the start of the article, not at the end.
We do know that vaccination is an important part of prevention of disease transmission in this country and has been a strong platform of our public health programme for a long time.
The Premiers who signed off on the competition restart.
They're encouraging everyone to get that flu vaccine for protection, and they should be listening to health advice as well.
All of us have worked hard to get to where we are, and we don't want to see any actions on behalf of a small number of people jeopardise all of that.
The NRL says 97% of players and staff have had the flu shot. Now everyone will be made to sign a new waiver, though that does little to prevent anyone getting sick. Bence Hammerley for 10 News First.
A large number of senior NRL players are seething at the treatment of Latrell Mitchell in the media. Joel Thompson went public today, warning if it doesn't stop, Mitchell could walk away from rugby league.
It's hard to argue with this. Latrell Mitchell has been the most talked about NRL player in the last 12 months. Much of that commentary negative, and leading voices in the game are fed up.
I just don't get it with it. I honestly don't get it. It's one of the most biased things that I've probably seen in my coaching career, actually.
It is absolute bullying. It is attacking people, and we're better than that.
Twitter went into overdrive when a media outlet took a stab at Latrell's fitness levels on day one back.
Come and put a camera on everyone at training, across every club. So who's struggling with fitness?
The difference now, it's not just Latrell's mates sticking up for him.
John Bateman from the Raiders, spoke up about it. English fella that comes to Australia, hasn't been here that long, but he's seen us like, wow, this is not okay. People have a job to create money, to generate, clicks. And I understand that, but they have to draw a line in the sand at some point where enough's enough. Mitchell
dominated headlines last week after being fined for breaking social distancing rules.
No, fair enough. Latrell did the wrong thing. He's copped his punishment. He owned it. He spoke about it.
But Thompson says the obsession began a long time ago. Attacks over his move to the Bunnies, attacks over his switch to fullback, and worst of all, racial attacks from fans on social media.
Would they actually say that to someone's face? And no way. They're cowards.
The concern now is that Latrell could walk away from rugby league, just like AFL star Adam Goodes.
He's a resilient kid, but you just never know how much it can just chop at someone and bring them down.
Emma Lawrence for 10 News First.
After months of infighting, acting Rugby Australia CEO Rob Clark insists it is a new day for the game. Clark has plenty of work to do as he aims to get Super Rugby teams playing again by July. That includes negotiating a new broadcast deal and securing vital funding from World Rugby.
Past is the past, and I don't think there's any advantage dwelling on the past. My focus is the task the board's given me over the time that I'll be sitting in the chair as an interim CEO. There's a lot to do.
And former Network 10 boss Hamish McLennan is favourite to become Rugby Australia's next chairman. Shane Van Gisbergen dominated round 5 of the Supercars E-Series but has been penalised for aggressive driving. Plenty of cars suffered virtual damage at Belgium's Spa circuit on a thrilling night in the simulator. Well, for some, Van Gisbergen won 2 of 3 races, but this shunt at the end of race 1 saw him relegated to 5th place.
He pulls together a perfect block pass, but it comes undone. It comes undone at the critical moment.
The red face of the round went to F1 young gun Lando Norris, who drove the wrong way on the circuit before causing a multi-car pile-up at the entrance to pit lane. And Sandra, he enjoyed it so much he wants to drive the supercars for real.
Cool. Excellent news. Thanks, Matt. Stay with us. Up next, the new dire prediction about Sydney's housing market.
and the Daily Bailey weather wall turns on a bit of summer. You're not going to believe the temperatures, and it's on the telly next.
Shop with us to make your home your haven.
Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
How about on E5?
Yes.
On the go food?
Totally.
Astronaut food?
Affirmative.
Astronauts?
Yep. It's the perfect blend of flavor and heat. I put that on everything.
Spoiling Mum on Mother's Day is super important, so I'm creating my own restaurant at home this year. Udi's 3-course Mother's Day box lets me be the chef. Visit Udi at odee.com.au.
As you can see, Tim is back for Timmy Time. Tim, it's meant to be May, but tomorrow, well, it'll feel like December. I've got to say, I love your work.
Thanks very much. Yeah, bring in the blue sky and temperatures that are more December-like than May. It is going to be a cracking 48 hours in the harbour city. Let's dive into the Daily Bailey weather wall and see what's going on. All the action again in the south. Look at the cold fronts that are really just muscling up down through the Southern Ocean, Bass Strait and Tasmania, and whisking out off the coast of New South Wales. A little bit of coastal cloud, high cloud, did drift across Sydney today, as you noticed, and what is going to happen is we're going to see some big northerly winds. Warm ones, they're going to send the temps to 27 and 28 degrees Friday and Saturday. Weather map, here we go, and this is what it looks like tomorrow. Number one cold front, moving through New South Wales right about now, not doing too much apart from increasing wind speeds. Now, the second cold front and third front will impact probably late Saturday, Sunday, and we'll see temperatures drop from 27 or 28 degrees by the coast in Sydney down to 19 degrees for Mother's Day. So significant, but we'll miss most of it. Tasmania and Victoria about to cop it. Big high pressure system produces the big blue skies, the warm northerly winds, and hello December in May. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? All right, business to the Brolly, predicted precipitation, no surprises here. The cold fronts just banging through Tasmania and Victoria, and to a lesser extent the southern parts of New South Wales. All right, it's my favourite part of the show. It's Australia's favourite photo album, and in lockdown, in isolation, it's never been more important. We need you to take us somewhere beautiful, and you do it each and every night. Look at this one. Lake Macquarie, Carl Bro 61 takes a photo of the sunset as somebody takes a photo of the sunset. Shared on Instagram, folks, and it's hashtag Daily Bailey NSW, and pull out your phone. It looks a bit like that, and follow the weatherman, Daily Bailey 10 on Insta, and take your shots. Take them landscape. I get so many shots that are great, but they're taken that way. Forget it. Come up and take them landscape. We'll put them on the wall where you get it all. It's the screen that's got to be seen. And Mawulambar, you are magnificent. Sigscapes captures that beautiful part of northern New South Wales, the cloud band, the light and the green meadows. Glorious. On Instagram, hashtag Daily Bailey NSW. Now, in days of isolation, in days of lockdown, I tell you what we need. We need cuddles, we need puppies, and we need naps. And we've got them all right there. Megsy's Gallery, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Have a look at that. They're interesting times, aren't they, folks, in which we live. Thank you for sharing. Send me all your creativity. We need you to entertain us now more than ever. All right, round we go and have a look at a forecast for you. There's the big map. Perth, 19 in showers. The Alice, 31 and sunny, 35. Likewise, Broome. A shower Cairns. Brisbane, 26, fine and sunny. Canberra, 19 degrees, an awesome autumn day. Melbourne, 20, and Hobart, even a good one, 17 degrees. New South Wales now. Tamworth, fine and sunny, 23. Broken Hill, 24. Dubbo, 24 degrees. Hardly a cloud in the sky as Sydney powers to 27 degrees in May. Super suburbs then look like this. It's a cracking day. 28 Penrith, Richmond 27, Parramatta 27. Hello summertime. Official forecast for Sydney, 27 degrees. It's smiling at you, and the 7-day forecast will do likewise in 25 minutes.
Tonight's top stories. Cardinal George Pell has been accused of being complicit in a cover-up of child sexual abuse within the Catholic Church going back decades. He has now hit back at these claims. Our Premier says she will not relax coronavirus restrictions in time for Mother's Day, no matter what the Prime Minister says. And the Deputy Premier gives us an exclusive insight into the week from hell for the state government. Well, secret Royal Commission reports have revealed just how much Cardinal George Pell knew about child sexual abuse by priests. The findings were finally made public in federal parliament today, and they show he was fully aware for decades and should have done more to protect children. The Cardinal has now hit back.
George Pell twice gave evidence to the Royal Commission into child sexual abuse, but he knew more than he revealed in the witness box.
It's a sad story and it wasn't of much interest to me.
The reports found the Cardinal was aware of clergy abusing children as far back as the 1970s. Survivors who lobbied for the details to be released aren't surprised.
Just really confirmation. So everyone knew that, so I suppose it's just now in the public domain.
The Commissioner's findings reveal Pell was made aware of complaints against Gerald Ridsdale, Father Peter Searson and Christian brother Ted Dowling. In 1974, a Ballarat student told Pell, "We've got to do something about what's going on at St Pat's." The Commission accepted Mr Green's evidence that when he explained Brother Dowling was touching little boys, Father Pell said words to the effect of "Don't be ridiculous," and walked away. In 1982, Pell was present at a meeting which ruled on one of several career transfers for notorious pedophile Gerald Ridsdale. Cardinal Pell gave evidence that the bishop did not give the true reason for moving Ridsdale, namely his sexual activity with children. It is inconceivable in these circumstances that Bishop Malkerns deceived his consultors. Steve Blacker was attacked by Ridsdale at Mortlake when he was 9.
If you think that the Catholic Church should have been protecting kids and in fact, they did the opposite. So it's devastating.
The report found in the 1980s when he was a bishop, Pell should have removed another predator from access to children, Father Peter Searson, after he was presented with a list of incidents from school staff about the priest. We do not accept that Bishop Pell was deceived intentionally or otherwise. He should have advised the Archbishop to remove Father Searson, and he did not do so. A statement issued on behalf of the Cardinal said he was surprised by some of the views of the Royal Commission about his actions and claimed these views are not supported by evidence. The report doesn't accuse the Cardinal of orchestrating any deliberate cover-up, but victims are relieved the evidence is finally public. Emma O'Sullivan for 10 News First.
New South Wales will not lift restrictions on gatherings, even if National Cabinet makes the move to ease COVID constraints tomorrow. Despite a record 10,000 tests conducted yesterday and only 3 new cases, the Premier says any changes here won't come in time for Mother's Day.
Sydney's inner harbour beaches and pools are reopening, and as Mother's Day approaches, Mother Nature is shining on us with good weather forecast. But the Premier remains the strict parent.
Even if National Cabinet does suggest easing of restrictions, which New South Wales will consider very carefully, they won't be able to be made in time for Mother's Day.
I'm upset about it, but if that's what she thinks is best for the state, then we have to listen to her.
National authorities are reviewing whether to allow gatherings of up to 10 people at home. But regardless of what the Prime Minister says,
2 adults and children can visit any mother at any one time. And a mother can accept multiple visits a day.
Almost 11,000 people were tested yesterday. There were 3 new cases, but importantly, none came from community transmissions. 1 was already in quarantine, the other 2 workers at the embattled Newmarch home. The crisis here so bad, the Federal Aged Care Commission stepped in. Anglicare today agreed to pay for and listen to an independent advisor, saying it was confident with the support of the advisor and the Commission, issues at Newmarch House will be resolved expeditiously. COVID-19 has claimed 16 lives at Newmarch and sent shockwaves through the aged care industry.
How do we make sure that we allow as much contact and connection as possible while making sure that we keep COVID out of residential care facilities?
Ali Donaldson for 10 News First.
To some breaking news now, and Anglicare has announced the identity of the new independent advisor. Here's Andrew Kincaid from Catholic Healthcare, who worked in banking and investment in both England and Australia. The truck driver who fatally ran over a Northern Beaches grandmother has been cleared of dangerous driving. But despite the outcome going in his favour, the man's thoughts were with the victim.
Terramona Techi's partner wiped a tear from her eye as the truck driver was found not guilty of dangerous driving. He was charged over a fatal crash that killed Northern Beaches grandmother Hayne Matheson. The 58-year-old had taken her grandson to the beach and shopping, and in her last act of love had pushed the pram he was in out of the way of the heavy vehicle moments before the collision.
I lifted the whole thing up, had a look if the baby was all right, and I rushed it up the driveway. I faced it and I turned it around so I couldn't see what was going on.
Techie, who in a police statement said he'd lived his life out of his mirrors, failed to see the pedestrian until it was too late, but was certain he'd undertaken all of the necessary checks and beeped his horn before reversing up the street. This was accepted by Judge John North, who'd also taken into account evidence from Techie's two loaders, who were in the cabin at the time and were helping to guide him out. He found that the Crown could not prove beyond reasonable doubt that he had been driving dangerously and therefore acquitted him of the charge.
Some terrifying research was released today, and it shows more than 7,000 Australians could kill themselves over the next few years because of COVID-19. Now, that awful prediction is being attributed to the financial disaster that is likely to drag on and on.
It's the silent danger that, on the raw numbers, is more deadly than the virus itself.
We face a 25% increase in suicides, an additional 750 deaths in the next year.
According to researchers, that's the best case scenario. A prolonged economic mess or recession with double-digit unemployment would be a human disaster.
We could see up to 1,500 additional deaths per year.
And that's for the next 5 years. The grim total, 7,500 additional suicides, mostly younger people, compared to the 97 who have been killed directly by COVID-19 so far, mostly older people.
The Prime Minister has prioritised youth unemployment, but actually you've got to act now. Don't wait.
Professor Hickey knows what he's talking about. He's a former mental health commissioner. The key, he says, is getting the economy moving, getting people back to work and giving them purpose. But for that to happen, restrictions need to be eased more quickly and extremely carefully.
We did need to go hard early, but having dodged the bullet on the health impacts, now the management of the next phase is just as serious.
Or thousands more people will die. Amber Austin-Wright for 10 News First.
And if you or someone you know is experiencing a personal crisis, there is support. Call the Lifeline 24-hour hotline, the telephone number 13 11 14. The Deputy Premier has told 10 News First that he's confident he and Transport Minister Andrew Constance can still work together despite a very public row. John Barilaro was today cleared of breaking coronavirus restrictions, accusations he believes were all part of a smear campaign.
New South Wales Police have given the Deputy Premier the all clear after visiting his family farm at Nerriga last weekend.
I knew that I was within the rules to do what I had done today over the weekend. I wouldn't have said it otherwise, but yeah, I'm relieved.
John Barilaro revealing for the first time he nearly lost the property to bushfires.
We've lost some country around the property, impacted, including irrigation, fences.
But repairing his relationship with Andrew Constance may take longer. The Bega MP says an alleged 4-letter sledge by Barilaro is one reason he withdrew his nomination to run for Eden Monero.
You read the paper like I did this morning, you go, no, stuff that.
Yep, there was a story yesterday that puts a wedge between Andrew and I. I'm not going to confirm, deny, I'm not going to make comment on that conversation, but Andrew and I have spoken since. It's always going to be difficult now because of what has been said.
The word he used was white hand. Were you white handing him?
No, absolutely not. I mean, again, there was accusations even over the weekend that Andrew had been white handing me, I even heard a couple of Liberal MPs talk about it, but I picked up the phone and asked him, what I had been hearing. He denied it. I believed him.
You just said it will be difficult. Can you two still work together in Cabinet?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, there are people in this Parliament and in the government sometimes that just want to wedge people. Andrew and I have been friends from the first day I started politics. He actually was one of the guys that found me and encouraged me to do this. And the fires have brought us together. But like all friendships, you have some speed bumps. There are going to be some moments that there might be some regrets. But the reality is Andrew and I have spoken. We'll get on with it, and hopefully, you know, when the restrictions get lifted and the pub's open, we'll have a beer together.
Something he won't be doing with federal Nationals leader Michael McCormack.
I made it clear. People know that I didn't feel I was supported by Michael.
The Deputy Premier says he will leave state politics at the next election. Lachlan Kennedy for 10 News First.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have shared a rare video of baby Archie on his first birthday to raise money for a children's charity, Coronavirus Appeal. Meghan Markle read her son one of his favourite books as proud dad Harry watched on and filmed a special moment.
Hey, look, a duck. That's not a duck, that's a rabbit. Yeah, here, can you turn the page?
The video shared by charity Save the Children is raising funds to help those living in hardship during this pandemic. It is only the third time the public has been granted a video glimpse of Archie, who now lives with mum and dad in Los Angeles after they quit the royal family in March. Well, stay with us after the break. The biggest of baby steps for Sydney's smallest horses. In sport, NRL players who decline vaccinations will be allowed to play, but there is a catch. And when the cricket season starts up, will this be allowed after the COVID-19 pandemic?
Now and then I get a little bit tired of craving something that I can't have. I finally found the right snack.
It's one of the biggest challenges that's ever been in the history of MasterChef.
The MasterChef Sushi Train Challenge.
Each of you need to make 100 plates. This is insane.
7:30 tonight on 10.
The outlook for the housing market is pretty glum as confidence is shaken by the impact of coronavirus on the economy. Here's Gillian Bowen with Finance News.
Hello there, a little taste today at what the property market might look like as the economic impacts from the coronavirus hammer home. NAB believes house prices are about to slide significantly. It's predicting big falls over the next 12 to 18 months, with capital cities to see drops of up to 15%. But it's unit prices in Melbourne and Sydney that are really tipped to feel it. Economists are blaming rising unemployment, slower wage growth and weak confidence. And there are plenty out there needing COVID-19 financial help. The Commonwealth Bank says it's approved more than $555 million in taxpayer-backed loans to small and medium businesses. The money flowing through to 6,500 customers. More than 40% of the businesses are in New South Wales and almost 1 in 5 are in retail. To the ASX, it's closed down for a second day, a development this afternoon for TPG and its big merger with Vodafone, the Foreign Investment Review Board giving the telcos its approval. Fashion retailer Mosaic Brands, which owns Millers, Rockmans and Noni B, up a healthy 21%, despite telling investors to brace for a full-year COVID-19 loss. And BHP and Fortescue Metals both up on better-than-expected China trade numbers, and that has also helped the dollar. It's buying 64.4 US cents, and that's finance.
One of Sydney Harbour's most beautiful inhabitants was given a new lease of life today. After a 10-month battle to bring them back from the brink of extinction, dozens of Sydney seahorse babies were released back in the wild.
These are big baby steps with bags full of baby seahorses, world first babies bred in captivity and now heading to their real home in Sydney Harbour. Very momentous day today.
It certainly is. Yeah, we're very excited.
Last year, the white seahorse, also known as the Sydney seahorse, slipped onto the endangered list. But then a very special team stepped in.
This is sort of considered a world-first project in that the first time where we've been able to breed these animals in an aquarium to then release them in the wild.
This is the most endangered seahorse in all of Australia, and this is our bit to try and recover it back in the wild.
Today, these 6-month-old beauties tasted freedom for the first time, gripping onto local swimming nets and moving into specially installed seahorse hotels at Clifton Gardens. 90 of them, hand-reared, with lots of love.
I'm not very good at playing favourites, every single one of them. They're all very unique and I guess quite quirky animals.
Every seahorse is born with individual markings, just like a fingerprint, but their spots change colour as they get older. So all of these guys need to be individually tagged. It's all about keeping a close eye on future populations.
Seahorses!
Back in their natural habitat, free of social distancing rules. Ali Donaldson for 10 News First.
Matt Burke is back now with the rest of the day in sport. And Matt, so much for no jab, no play.
Yeah, that's right, Sandra. Good evening. The NRL wants to allow players who have refused the flu shot a chance to play again when the competition resumes. Bryce Cartwright from the Titans and Raiders' Josh Papali, Sia Soliola and Joe Tarpanay have chosen not to have the flu shot, which was encouraged as a part of the code's biosecurity protocol. The game stance seems at odds with the government advice.
All of us have worked hard to get to where we are, and we don't want to see any actions on behalf of a small number of people jeopardise all of that. So if an organisation or a business has a plan, the plan's been approved, and they want to get going, good on them, but they have to stick to the plan.
And the NRL says 97% of players and staff across the league have had the flu shot. More fellow NRL players have gone public in support of Latrell Mitchell, warning media critics and social media trolls could force him out of the game. Manly's Joel Thompson says the critics' obsession began a long time ago, attacking Mitchell's move to the Bunnies, his switch to fullback, plus racial attacks on social media.
It is absolute bullying. Like, it is attacking people, and, we're better than that.
And the concern is that Mitchell could walk away from rugby league just like Swan star Adam Goodes did in the AFL. Cricketers are hoping to get back in the swing of things as soon as possible. Aussie opener Joe Burns says they're prepared to take some risks when restrictions are lifted. While social distancing is easier for cricket than other sports, questions remain on whether high fives will be outlawed or saliva banned from shining the ball.
I think the product that we're putting out there, we still want to be a really entertaining product for fans. So whether it's saliva or not, we do need something that helps the ball swing, just so that the fans are kind of still getting entertained and watching something that is good to watch.
The Burns is gearing up to face India, who'll have a point to prove this summer after being bumped to number 3 in the ICC Test rankings. Now, if the Aussie netball season doesn't start soon, a few players may run away and join the circus. In a social media challenge, these netballers proved it's not just games and training that they're able to juggle. And so while the competition is yet to get its skates on, these players certainly have, and they can all juggle away with our play of the day. And Sandra, they are incredibly skillful.
I know, I think they're just showing off. And I only say that because I'm jealous.
Showing off, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Matt. Stay with us. Up next, will there be rain on the window panes or is it sunnies for all? You know it. It's Bailey time. Stick around.
Hospital Formula Active contains the essential vitamins, minerals and quality protein your body needs to stay strong and active. Sustagen, it's never too late to start.
If you're looking for a simple home loan with a great low rate, then walk this way. With a RAMS Essential Home Loan, you can enjoy both. Backed by our famous silver service. RAMS, greater together.
Even though we need to stay inside, we can still keep moving. Even when you're not outside, you can still move like you are. Because even when spaces are limited, you can still move without limits.
Up next, reality bites on lifting lockdowns with big impacts on how you can spend Mother's Day. The government's tracing app could be key to beating this thing, but when will it be fully working? And Italy's restrictions are easing, so we check in with Kate Langbrook to tell us all about it. The Project, next.
It's fabulous that we can fire up a Friday with a bit of summertime temperatures and blue skies. That's exactly what I've got in mind as we plug into the Daily Bailey weather wall, the forecast where we get it all. OK, bit going on. First cold front right about now moving through southern areas of New South Wales, just increasing wind speeds. Not a lot of rain or anything else in that. Second and third fronts will play a role come late Saturday and Sunday and drop temperatures down into the teens. But the big high pressure system is the story for Friday and Saturday. It is going to pump out the blue skies, drag in the warm northerly winds and put temps at around, get this, 27 or 28 degrees in the harbour city Friday and day one of the weekend. Just perfect. All right, let's have a look at New South Wales for you. And tomorrow is simply some of my finest work. Broken Hill, fine and sunny and 24 degrees. Dubbo, 24 degrees. Orange, did someone say fine and sunny and 17 degrees? Likewise, Wagga Wagga. Canberra the same. Bega, fine and sunny and 25 degrees. Tamworth, 23 degrees. 25 in Coffs. Lismore, it's beaming at you, 25 degrees. Newcastle, the coast is just in classic blue sky form. Nowra, 27, Sydney 27. It's a piece of December in May. We're going to enjoy the next couple of days in New South Wales. All right. Richmond tomorrow, 27 degrees, 28 Penrith, Katoomba 19 degrees, Campbelltown 27. It's zinc cream on the nose and sand between the toes weather. Mascot 26, Terry Hills 25 degrees. 7-day forecast looks like this and delivers 27 Friday, 26 Saturday. There's the cold change, 19 Sunday and Monday. And in the Greater West, it's just perfect, 27 and 25 and then 18 degrees on Sunday. Souls. Glorious.
Your job is done. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. That is 10 News First. For this Thursday, May 7th, stand by now from the project, from the team. Look after yourselves and each other. We'll see you tomorrow, same time.
Tonight, is COVID-19 mutating into a stronger strain, and what would that mean for a vaccine?